Okay, colleagues, I think we're going to get going. It is Tuesday, April 21st. We're here in Council Chambers and we're calling the meeting to order at 6:37 p.m. I would ask that a council colleague read the land acknowledgement before we start with some opening remarks. Councillor Strachan.
The municipality of North Grenville acknowledges that the municipality operates on the territory of the Anishinaabe. We recognize all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples who now call North Grenville their home. We respect and support the need for cultivating a strong relationship, and we commit to Indigenous-informed decision-making to foster the path towards reconciliation.
Great, thank you so much. So before we begin our formalities this evening, just a few notes. First of all, I want to thank everyone who joined us last week for our Civic Awards ceremony. It was wonderful to recognize so many fantastic community leaders, both young and old. And of course, it always highlights to us what a caring and compassionate community North Grenville is. So thanks to my council colleagues and staff, and of course, individuals in the community who nominated some outstanding residents for their contributions and dedication. In addition, some quick reminders this Friday from 8 to 12, we'll be hosting the Sustainable Business Summit here in North Grenville. This event is led by Community Futures, as well as the Mayor's Task Force on Clean Technology. It's the second year we're doing it, and it brings local businesses together to explore practical ways to reduce emissions and pursue climate mitigation efforts. This event is happening just before the remarkable sustainability fair and market, which happens every Sunday. Councillor Strachan, I believe, is part of that effort to organize the sustainability fair, which has been a long-standing event in our community. So we're happy to introduce a forum whereby businesses specifically can come together and really think strategically about how to support their local environment and really leverage some of the incredible funding opportunities for climate mitigation. In addition, this Saturday, we have the St. Michael Spring Craft Fair. If you've not been to one of these craft fairs, they're just phenomenal and you'll never get through the whole thing because there's just too much talent and too much on offer for any one person to take it all in. But it's a wonderful event. Additionally, the municipality's Arts and Culture Development Fund is now open for 2026 application. Looking at my colleagues, Councillor Wilson and Deputy Mayor, we certainly know that the Arts and Culture Committee has worked hard on the development of this fund, and applications opened on April 7th and will be accepted until May 7th. And then last but not least, the Kemptville Youth Musical Theatre Company has been right in this theater performing their spring musical, which is The Drowsy Chaperone. It was launched last weekend. I hear it's phenomenal. I'm so excited to go this coming Friday. And, as I understand it, kids have been practicing since early fall. It's just such a labor of love and talent and dedication. So we certainly encourage you to come out and catch some fantastic theater right here in North Grenville. And I know Councillor Strachan has seen the show. I don't know if others have, and might have an actor or that with whom she's very well acquainted in the cast. So, Councillor Strachan, I don't know if you want to add anything.
It is a fantastic show. Anybody who hasn't seen it, I strongly recommend you go. It always blows me away. This talented group of youth, they always knock my socks off when it comes to it. This production isn't well known by many people, but it is Canadian. It's award winning. It went to Broadway. It went over to London. It was highly acclaimed in its time. And it still holds true today. It was hilarious. It's fun for all ages. The jokes are on many levels. So the kids will get one part, the adults will get the other part, and just phenomenal dancing, singing, and costumes, the whole thing. So if you have the chance, they're running this weekend and next weekend, shows Friday and 2 shows on Saturday this weekend due to the Sustainability Fair on Sunday. So if you get the chance, kymtc.org, and you can find tickets there.
Colleagues, anything you wish to comment on? I should say, and I know I've shared this with council colleagues, and we plan to share it a little bit later this evening and early tomorrow, that there has been some talk in the community in regards to the proposed Eastern Ontario Correctional Facility, and is it getting bigger? And there has been some concern based upon comments made by the Solicitor General back in March in Brockville. And I did do an interview with CFRA this morning to confirm that, of course, our understanding, based upon the limited information we have, is that should the Eastern Ontario Correctional Facility come to pass here in Kemptville, it will not exceed 235 beds. That being said, this is not our facility. It's a provincial facility on provincially lands, as we all know. But I did want to share with anyone listening, watching, that certainly we have made some additional efforts over the last couple of days to clarify comments that were made by the Solicitor General back in March. And the Government of Ontario did come out with a sort of plan for correctional facilities in the province a couple of weeks ago. And at that time, they did suggest that the facility planned here in Kemptville for what it is today is no bigger than 235 beds. So that may not provide comfort to everyone, but it does help, I think, council understand where the province is at in this moment. We do plan to have some, or request some additional dialogue with the province to be crystal clear on what is being contemplated internally in case anything has changed. But based upon what we know now, the proposal is for a 235-bed facility. At the same time, I should say that what I hear from MPP Steve Clark and others is that the preoccupation is currently on Brockville, where a very, very old provincial correctional facility, small, plus the psychiatric beds. Both are being significantly renovated, and there was some expansion. And Brockville appears to be where much of the focus is, but it's not to say that North Granville doesn't remain in the mix. So I wanted to share that with so many of you in the room today, because we don't get the luxury of having so many people here listening or watching our council meetings. And we do, as a council, plan to put out some additional information the next day or two. So with that, I'm going to look to council colleagues in regards to our agenda. Ms. Dunlop, our CEO, has advised us that the asset management plan presentation that was anticipated for this evening will not be happening, unfortunately. There were a couple of last-minute developments that prevent the plan from being presented. So, council colleagues, I'll be working with CEO Dunlop to find a new date. I know this is an item that every municipality in the province has been undertaking, which is a wholesale, extremely comprehensive and detailed asset management plan, which is certainly different from other asset management plans municipalities across Ontario have done over the past decade. North Granville was always great at asset management, if you will, but the kind of planning the province is now asking for is a very, very deep dive into every asset we own, and the province is asking for very particular plans on how we will ensure that we have the resources and the capacity to maintain and update all those assets as required. So it's a very substantial report coming to council. So we look forward to getting that report as soon as Ms. Dunlop and her team can bring it back to the agenda. So I say that because we will therefore look to amend the agenda this evening to remove F1, which was the presentation for the asset management plan, as well as consider recommendations related to the asset management plan under J1. So council colleagues, if you could consider the asset management items effectively deleted from tonight's agenda, I will look for a mover and a seconder for an amended agenda. Councillor Wilson and Councillor Strachan. Any questions, colleagues, on the agenda? Otherwise, my screen is prohibiting a clear view. I'm going to put this down. There you go. Okay, now I can see both. Okay, so we've got a motion on the table. Seeing no hands, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Great. Thank you so much. So that carries. So next is declarations of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Are there any members tonight with a declaration in regards to perceived or real financial benefit or loss arising from any item on the agenda? Seeing no hands, we will move on. And we are going to hear this evening, as a consequence of not having our very robust asset management plan presented as the first item this evening. We are here to hear from a number of different residents in regards to the overlay at County Road 43. If you've been following closely the discussions we're having on our renewed official plan, you'll know that the consulting team, alongside our director, Amy Martin, have been speaking to council about an overlay, sort of zoning, I guess, Ms. Martin would be the terminology, or maybe you can correct me if it's not zoning per se. It is.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's not zoning, and it's not an official land use designation. It's an overlay where additional policies would be considered should a development application be brought forward. So it's related to the official plan, which more relates to designations than
Designation. That's
zoning.
correct.
Yeah.
Okay. So by virtue of proposed designations of certain lands within the official plan, it has elicited a lot of concern and questions in the community. And that's why we, in fact, we've heard from a variety of different residents. And if we thought tonight was a good opportunity to hear from those residents, because the consideration of the renewed official plan will come back to council later in May or June for final consideration. So we're still in this period of sort of public comment, and it is council's job to make sure that we're sort of hearing different perspectives in the community. So we thought this meeting was a good opportunity to tackle this particular issue because no doubt it has raised some interest, intrigue, concern, what have you, in the community. So we have 4 individuals this evening to hear from. And just a reminder, because we do have a number, we've asked our presenters to stick around the 10-minute mark with an additional 5 minutes for council colleagues to ask any questions of clarification. Tonight won't resolve this issue. This is simply about receiving information from residents in the community. Council will have additional opportunities to discern and make decisions over the renewed official plan, as I was mentioning, later in May. But it's great to get the benefit of the perspectives we'll hear this evening, well in advance of some of those deliberations later next month. So with that, I'll invite Heather Papazzi to come down. Then we have Luke Galenzi, we have Jan and Mary Ritzkis, and we have Lynn Tyler. And I've asked our clerk, Heather, just to keep an eye on the time, our acting clerk, so that we are respectful to all of the presenters this evening, and also give council a bit of an opportunity to ask you and other presenters any questions.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I want to begin from a place of shared purpose. We all want a strong, thriving municipality. Tonight, on behalf of close to 1,300 people, I am asking Council to move the urban service area back to the County Road 43, subsequently removing the intensification overlay within the draft municipal plan. We are asking to keep growth aligned with where the policy says it belongs, and not to continue fragmenting the border established agricultural system of the FFC. The total acreage from Veterans Way to County Road 43 should remain designated and zoned agricultural. The municipal planning framework is clear that agricultural lands will be protected. Section 226 of the existing municipal plan states farming activities will be protected from incompatible, encroaching development and encouraged along tourist routes to enhance rural atmosphere. Planning documents are written for real moments of decision, and in planning language, will be is not soft wording, it is policy direction. This is not farmland pushing into town, it is town growth pressing into established agricultural system that has existed and been geographically protected triangularly by the north side of 43, the east side of 44, and the river for over 80 years. At the provincial level, PPS 2024, Section 4311 requires planning authorities to maintain and enhance a geographically continuous agricultural land base and support the long-term productivity capacity of the agri-food network. PPS Sections 2321 and 4352 further require impacts from non-agricultural growth onto agricultural systems to be avoided where possible and otherwise minimized and mitigated. Tonight, we're not asking Council to invent a new principle. We are asking Council to uphold the clear policy direction and to respect planning logic. There is room for North Grenville to grow without sacrificing our public agricultural system. If the volunteer board of the FFC no longer wants to lease these 13 acres of heritage agriculture, it presents residents of North Grenville with a viable investment opportunity, a visible showcase that not only matches land use compatibility, enhances County Road 43 tourist route to a UNESCO World Heritage Site, it protects and fosters a historic 300-acre bare root tree farm behind it. No planning risk. This is an investment in North Grenville, by extension, in the Ferguson Forest Corporation and in the living economy that sustains it. These 13 acres are part of a bigger agricultural system. Keep them intact and you protect it. Break them up and you weaken it. County mapping identifies the Class 2 soils here, and as this deck notes, Class 2 does not mean non-arable land. It means workable agricultural land with moderate limitations. It is important to state most of the arable agricultural land in North Grenville and Eastern Ontario are Class 2 soil. The planning sequence here is simple. The farm landscape came first and the urban service area was drawn around it. A local farmer explained this: when you strip away some of your best frontage, you are not trimming excess. You are cutting into productive capacity while the fixed capital costs remain. North Grenville can keep growing. If Council is serious about protecting this farm for the long term, and the urban service boundary needs to be moved back to County Road 43, now, before ongoing pressures become permanent loss. Local farm knowledge suggests that these 13 acres are among the better drained and more workable parts of the operation. Amend the soil and strengthen the tree nursery behind it. There is a development pressure on this agricultural system. The draft official plan does not counterbalance that pressure with land use decisions that are actively support the farm operation. Growth around the Ferguson Forest agricultural system should be planned to reduce pressure on the farm system, not intensify. As this community grows, if we truly believe in the Fergus Forest Incorporation as a defining asset of North Grenville, then decisions must be oriented agriculturally to strengthen its future and not compromise it. This slide clears up a misunderstanding. Are you on 3? No soil lab testing has been put forward to show these lands are anything other than current Class 2 classification. On this map, the black outlines show the active farm operations across North Grenville, working farms on the same Class 2 soils. These counties own agricultural review materials define agricultural areas as places where Class 1, 2, and 3 lands dominate, along with associated lands and local concentration of ongoing agriculture. That is important because this tells Council to look at the broader system and not just one parcel in isolation. Slide 4. If the urban service area stays at Veterans Way, the pressure does not stop at the frontage. By my calculation, it leaves roughly 60 acres of the Ferguson Forest Center's 300-acre agricultural operation exposed to future intensification. That would cut the working land base down to roughly 240 acres. For a mid-sized farm, that is a real loss because the land shrinks, but the fixed costs, capital costs, and infrastructure pressures do not. This is exactly why urban service area needs to move back to 43. County policy says growth belongs in settlement areas on vacant and underused urban zoned lands, not creeping farther into farmland along county roads. Provincial policy says maintain a continuous agricultural land base, and our own municipal plan says protect agricultural land for the long term and prevent fragmentation. This is the moment to fix the line, not normalize the risk. County Road 43 has long acted as a natural boundary and buffer for these lands, protecting the agricultural area that narrows east towards the river. County Road 43 can serve growth and preserve agriculture. It should not become the reason to urbanize the agricultural system beside it. Slide 5. Any one policy can be read narrowly on its own. The county's official plan carries a provincial direction forward from slide 1. In plain terms, that means building on south side of 43, county can adopt the new boundary as part of their official plan for 2027. From an environmental economic point of view, North Grenville's tourism strategy talks about increasing revenue yield from visitor experience, including growing our agro-tourism and the interconnected network of assets. Every non-agricultural incursion weakens the continuity, scale, and long-term viability of the County Road 43 agricultural system. Slide 6. At a certain point, council must separate assertion from evidence. The core problem appears to be a reoccurring capital need at the Ferguson Forest Corporation, a volunteer-run board, nonprofit, private corporation. The volunteer board keeps facing financial pressure and the public is not being clearly informed. In 2024, the volunteer board of the Ferguson Forest Corporation sought municipal assistance for operational needs. That tells council the issue is whether the FFC has better capital pathway other than repeatedly returning to the public requesting liquidating land to solve the next need. A special meeting of council was held on April 7th, which identifies community bonds as one such approach. Tapestry Community Capital is a financing mechanism available to charities, nonprofits, and cooperatives. In relation to the FFC, Mayor and Council can speak to this type of community-based financing model and how they see it form part of the solution. Because it is serious and unfortunate place for an organization devoted to afforestation to be suggesting the sale of the very agricultural land under its care. 7. If North Grenville wants to celebrate itself as one of the fastest growing communities, then it also has a duty to protect the assets that made it worth growing in the first place. North Grenville should showcase our agricultural heritage and legacy and not erase it. If council fragments Class 2 agricultural system, it reflects poor long-term planning for North Grenville. The concept drawings before you are not just a design exercise. This is not an abstract concept imported from somewhere. It is a practical showcase of agricultural best practices in action. It is locally granted vision developed by a local landscape architect with experience of multi-generational farming family from this area. They know the land, the climate, the agricultural realities of North Grenville. It is an achievable example of how these 13 acres can be transformed into an asset for the broader agricultural system while also becoming a built-in layer of protection for the fields behind them. This is not passive preservation. It is a strategic use of frontage, a living agricultural buffer that helps shield crops and complements the significant public infrastructure already created along the streetscape. Utilizing this land as an investment in the operation itself ultimately strengthens long-term viability of the Ferguson Forest Corporation. This is not my opinion. This is not theory. Ontario and Canada are already funding this exact kind of work because it builds stronger, more resilient, productive farms. This is a direction senior governments are backing, and North Grenville has a chance to show what it looks like right here. We cannot keep saying we value Ferguson Forest Corporation while leaving its land base exposed. If these frontage lands are urbanized instead of used as an agricultural buffer, it is reasonable to expect more heat stress on the operation behind them, not less. That is not protection, it is added pressure on a working agricultural system we claim to value. Agroforestry is not a side idea, it is a core solution before you tonight. This clear opportunity to align North Grenville with the direction already being advanced by both the Province of Ontario and Government of Canada. We can demonstrate what modern, responsible, and productive land use looks like, productive agriculture infrastructure, and create new value through agroforestry, education, and destination building. This is planning alignment. Why would we push an intensification overlay onto a working agricultural system when the land is already performing an essential function? These 13 acres are not a side idea, are not sitting idle. As open permeable land, they help water move into the ground, support groundwater recharge, and contribute to protecting shallow bedrock aquifer in the Oxford Formation, which North Grenville identifies as a primary source of water for private supply wells. In planning terms, this is not just agricultural land, it is a functioning land. Don't weaken the land base, invest in the land use that strengthens Ferguson Forest, protects North Grenville's identity, and supports smarter growth. After all, good things grow in Ontario.
Thank you. And before you leave, I'm just going to ask those colleagues if there are Any questions at this stage? Thank you, Ms. Papazzi, for your very fulsome presentation. We appreciate it. And certainly, Council, if you have something that comes to mind along the way, we can invite our presenters to come back down. Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Galenzi. Welcome, Mr. Galenzi. There's a clock, and I appreciate that the clerk's been running the clock, and I'm giving people a little more time, because I know there's a lot of passion and energy around this issue. So, Mr. Galenzi, welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, Your Honor, I'd like to plead not guilty. Sorry, that's tomorrow. Oh, good evening, Mayor and Council. I appreciate your time. And I want to start somewhere personal, because more than 24 years ago, we moved to Kemptville because we had family in the area. We liked what this place was, a real rural community, close enough to Ottawa. We knew growth was coming, and we had lived in the Inkerman and Brinston areas before, and so it was close to where we were working. And in building our home here, we reforested 10 acres along Kemptville Creek, planted hundreds of trees every year. I spent years turning marginal land into productive farmland and forested space. We put our money and our time into this land. And I say that because I want to be clear. I'm not here against trees or green space. I'm here because I think we're about to make a wrong decision on the wrong piece of land. I don't think the debate is really about trees or green space. I think it's about fear. People here are afraid of losing what makes this place special, that we're becoming another bedroom community, subdivisions and strip malls spreading, and that things that made Kemptville worth living in are disappearing one decision at a time. And I feel that too. We're growing. But I want to challenge the assumption underneath that fear, because I think it's pointed in the wrong direction. Holding on to a half-kilometer strip of roadside along a 4-lane commercial corridor is not what saves our rural character. What saves it is making smart decisions about where growth goes, keeping it tight, keeping on land that's already serviced, so we don't have to sprawl outward into the farms and forests and creekside land that actually make this place look and feel what it is. The most effective way to preserve our rural character is to prevent sprawl. And the most effective way to prevent sprawl is to use the serviced land that we already have. The fear is valid, but the conclusion being drawn from it isn't. The question being put to you tonight is trees or development, green space or development. Framed that way, trees win every time. Nobody in this room is against that. But that's not the real question. The real question is which 13 acres? We're talking about 13 acres, just over 1% of the Fergus Forestry Center lands that front directly onto a 4-lane commercial corridor. The other 1,087 acres of forest, trails, nursery, arboretum, and the dog park are entirely untouched by this decision. The green space and trees aren't on the table tonight, but what's on the table is where the growth goes. And if we get that wrong, we don't save a forest, we just push the same growth somewhere where there's no services, no infrastructure, and a much bigger bill. Tonight's not a vote to sell the land, it's a vote on planning designation. It's not actually a vote tonight, but whether to apply a commercial intensification overlay in the official plan. That overlay doesn't trigger a sale tomorrow. It doesn't bulldoze anything. It establishes that this land is appropriate for development, which it is, sitting on a fully serviced 4-lane highway, and it preserves council's ability to make the right call when the time comes. If we designate it as protected green space, that door closes. County Road 43 will cost us around $51 million. I might be off there, but 4 lanes, 4 roundabouts, underground water, sewer, hydro, street lighting, and multi-use pathways, and a new 4-lane bridge over the Kemptville Creek. This parcel sits on half a kilometer of that corridor, and it has full access to every dollar of that investment, the traffic, services, the bridge, all of it. And whether we develop this land or leave it idle, that infrastructure is there. The snow gets cleared, the lights stay on, the pipes stay in the ground. The question is simply whether this land works for the community that paid for the road in front of it, or whether it doesn't. So, path 1, converting this strip into an accessible urban forest means, site cleanup, tree planting, pathways, ongoing maintenance, lighting. Upfront cost, look at 13 acres, you're probably looking at $1.5 million to $2 million with annual maintenance of anywhere between $120,000 and $130,000 every year, indefinitely. Over 20 years, you're looking at a cumulative cost of anywhere between $2.5 and $4.5 million. on land sitting beside a $51 million corridor, generating nothing monetarily. Wonderful place to go. Path 2, the municipality has the overlay, sells the 13 acres at roughly, value that at about $1 million an acre. There's 13 million in public revenue up front. Then developers or whoever invest their money, generally around $2 million an acre. So you've got an infrastructure value of another 26 million in private capital at no cost to the municipality. Total assessed value at $39 million. At your normal commercial tax rate of 2.43%, you're looking at almost $945,000 a year in tax revenue. The municipal share of that is $360,000 annually, or roughly $7.5 million over 20 years. Private money builds it, we collect taxes forever. The cost of an urban forest here would fall almost entirely on Kemptville residents. The people in Bishop's Mills, Oxford Mills, Oxford Station, Hexton, Burt's Rapids aren't driving to a roadside park on County Road 43. The forest would serve roughly the 6,000 people in the Kemptville urban service area. Split across those 6,000 residents, that's somewhere between $150 and $350 a person to build this forest, plus ongoing maintenance every single year after that. Flip it around. The $360,000 in municipal tax revenue from the commercial development benefits all 20,000 North Grenville residents equally. The $13 million land sale goes into the budget that serves everyone in North Grenville. And over 20 years, that's roughly $1,000 per North Grenville resident in combined revenue. Should 6,000 Kemptville residents pay up to $350 each just to build a roadside park, while the 20,000 North Grenville residents forego nearly $1,000 in revenue that could fund roads, recreation, and services for everyone? That's the real trade-off. If we protect this land, growth doesn't stop. It gets pushed to the fringes where land is unserviced, and eventually the municipality has to follow it with infrastructure. We just paid $51 million to service this corridor, and when we bypass it and push development somewhere that it isn't serviced, we don't avoid that cost, we duplicate it. We pay for it again somewhere else for the same growth. The City of Ottawa's own analysis found that low density suburban development, spreading things out, costs roughly $465 per person per year, while compact development close to existing infrastructure actually generates a surplus of over $600,000 per resident. That's a $1,000 difference per year in either direction. Every municipality has studied this carefully and has reached the same conclusion. Growing outward costs dramatically more than growing on land you've already paid for. Sprawl is what turns a town into a bedroom community. Using the land we've already serviced is how we stop this from happening. Use the serviced land, protect the rest. And when people hear commercial development, they picture big box stores and corporate chains, and that's not what I'm talking about. It's local jobs for local people. The kids from St. Michael's and North Grenville High School, bagging groceries, serving tables, working at the counter at the pharmacies. Residents who don't have to drive to Barrhaven or Brockville to work for services they can't find here yet. Every dollar that leaves this community is a dollar that didn't support a local family. More local commercial space means more of these dollars stay here. We see it every day, the checkout, the restaurant, the drugstore. Those are Kemptville people working in Kemptville jobs. The more we build here, the more of that there is. That's what responsible development looks like. Not a threat to our identity, but a way to fund it. Because here's what I really believe. Every person in this room wants the same thing. We love green space. We want trails. We want parks, forest, and a community that feels like it's worth living in. We want our kids to be able to stay here and work here and build their lives here. The question has never been whether those things matter, because they do. To all of us, whether you live in Kemptville or Oxford Mills or Burt's Rapids, the question is how we pay for them. A community that grows intelligently, putting development where the infrastructure already exists and generating the revenue to maintain the parks, fund the trails, and protect 1,000 acres of forest that actually helps define this place. Not a community that makes the same things harder to afford every single year. This isn't about choosing between trees and growth. It's about choosing the path that gives us both. Develop this 1% and protect the other 99. And that's how Kemptville stays Kemptville for all of us. Thank you.
Just before you go, Mr. Glenzie, any questions at this stage? No? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, just one sec, Mr. Glenzie, Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, just quickly through you, Mayor Peckford, to Mr. Glenzie. I just want to reiterate, and I know you said it several times in what you said, that we don't want to just make this a bedroom community, or you do want to make it a bedroom community. This has been a bedroom community for as long as I've lived here, and it's over 65 years. So I just
Sure.
want to set that,
Sure.
okay? But it was
Appreciate
great
it.
presentation.
No.
Heather, great presentation too. Thank you
No,
for both
thank
of
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next we'll welcome two Ritzkis down. I think Janet Mary and Ms. Beeking as well. All right, Ms. Jan Ritzkis is coming down. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and I thank the mayor, the council, the staff for allowing us to come tonight. We started a relationship, a partnership together to build small homes for over 55s who are struggling to find a safe home and are on very limited incomes. Tonight, we would like to formally request again acre and a half of those 13 hectares that you have so that we are able to build 12 to 16 more units for seniors who are needing a place to live that's affordable and that would allow them to live with a bit of dignity. We would like to request that our partnership continues. The council, mayor, staff, we all worked pretty hard to do our first 4 units. These 12 to 16 would help North Grenville residents, and these are for North Grenville residents only. And that would maintain. We'd like to ask again for the 40-year lease, that the land, the municipality retains the land. And after 40 years, who knows? Yeah. That's our formal request. We do have fundraisers started. One of the things we are doing is what we call the toonie banks. We have on the signs 15,000 residents in North Grenville. If every one of those residents saved a toonie a day for 7 weeks, we would have all the money we needed to complete those homes. And so that is what we've begun. The houses, I believe, will not take away from Ferguson Forest. They're small, they're beautiful, and they're for people who really need our help and our support. So that's our request for tonight, official presentation. The other thing I'd like to say is we will not build until we have the complete funds. The reason for that is to do all the hookups that we need to do. It is much cheaper. We do it one time only as opposed to doing it 4 to 5 times. And I can assure you, these hookups are very expensive. So we'd like to save the money for that. And I invite all of you, of course, to start a toonie bank. Save a toonie a day. We'll help a whole lot of seniors in this area. Thank you very much for listening.
So just if you don't mind, I'm just looking to council colleagues for any questions. And again, Jan, just so we're clear, you're looking for access to 1.5 acres
Yes.
of that 13 for how many homes again?
We say between 12 and 16. The reason for that is if the price stays the same and the volunteers, this is a community project. It belongs to quite a number of people in North Grenville who donated, who did volunteer work, tradespeople who gave their skills. And I believe it is a community thing. It is a community project for those of people in North Grenville who are kind of the least of the least. And the reason I say that is because they're not young and cute. These are people who've lived their lives in North Grenville, built the communities. Unfortunately, some of them might even be relatives of ours, and that's okay. They need a place. They're in the cracks. They're not the ones that we all can take care of. And that's what we'd like to do.
And do you have again, without presupposing any access to this particular land, your timeline for building those 12 to 16 homes would be?
We believe that we could do the complete fundraising, I hope, within this year.
Within the calendar year 2026?
Yes, and North Grenville will be a major focus of that. We bought an adult tricycle, which we'll be riding around. If you see us, donate. And of course, there's a number of smaller businesses who are helping us out by putting up a bank. A lot of individuals have begun starting their own toonie banks. Hopefully, hoping by the end of May that we can report every month how much has been raised and everybody can follow along with that. And the other thing is we have our second annual walkathon, and it will be on the campus again. The big difference this year is it will be the actual distance listed.
And Mike, just one other question, and I defer to council colleagues. Is it the case that you definitely need an acre and a half, or could you do it on less?
You know, I'm a little off with distance or size. So you could say a foot, to me, a foot can be like this and a foot can be like that because I don't visualize very well that way. Depending on the size, like if it's a square, I would say an acre. If it's long, I'm sure we need an acre and a half.
Okay, great. Colleagues, anything else? Just in terms of understanding the nature of the request? Not seeing anything? Okay. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. So finally, we have Ms. Lynn Tyler. Welcome.
Oh, thank you, Mayor and Council. Very much appreciate this. I just want to acknowledge some board members, volunteers, and supporters in the audience. Trish Adams, a board member, is modeling our Friends of Ferguson Forest t-shirt. Trish did a presentation a couple of weeks ago, and she thinks she was spotted by the crew of Artemis II. Anyway, thank you very much for the time. We appreciate it. I'm the chair of Friends of Ferguson Forest Center, and we've been discussing this a fair bit. We obviously have a great interest in Ferguson Forest lands. I've got 5 points that I'd like to make and then a recommendation. Next slide, please. So if we understand the official plan correctly, there is a projection that the population of North Grenville will double in 25 years. Double. And we also understand that the focus of the growth will be in Kemptville, and there will be a strong focus on avoiding sprawl. And I very much agree with Mr. Valenci about the importance of avoiding sprawl and building more intensely and building up where we can, where there's service. But given all of that, 43 is going to look very different in 25 years. There's going to be a lot more businesses, a lot more people working there, a lot more people living there. And they are going to want green space. They are going to clamor for green space in that area. And you know, when we say green space, we mean mature forests shrubs, wildflowers, enough room that you can run and play and explore. We're not talking about, 10 square yards of grass by the condominium development. So there's going to be a growing need for that kind of green space. It's a human need to have access to nature. Next slide, please. The second thing we want to say is once it's gone forever. Nobody's going to knock down an apartment building to build a park or a strip mall. Once you develop it, that's it. It's over. And, 13 acres may not seem like very much. Well, let's just take 13 acres. And then there's another 13. 1% doesn't sound like very much. But if you eat away, it already is, but it becomes even more so a fragmentation and an enormous accumulative damage. Ferguson Forest is an incredible jewel in this community, and it can be harmed, it can be damaged. We need to protect, in my humble opinion, every square inch. And for you, as the municipal council, the lands along 43 may be your last best chance to ensure green space in that more intensified, more dense, more peopled 43 of the future. Next slide, please. So there's been a little bit of debate about the land. There's been a certain amount of toing and froing on social media and other places, and Ms. Papazzi spoke to this earlier. About the quality of the land, that it's not suitable for growing the kind of seedlings the tree nursery produces. They've made it clear they're not interested in it for their purposes. But of course, that doesn't mean nothing can grow there. There are mature trees bordering those fields, and lots of other things can grow there. And again, Ms. Papazzi referred to this. Obviously, species need to be chosen based on their ability to tolerate the soil conditions there, but it certainly can be done. So is it suitable for this? Yes, short answer. Next slide, please. So one of the things that is wonderful about Ferguson Forest is that a lot of people don't know it's there. And that's wonderful for those of us who love to go there because it's not as crowded as it might be if everybody knew about it. But it is a real tourist attraction for this community. It is a valuable asset for the folks who live here. And if you walk in the forest, you will know that people from all over North Granville and from far beyond North Granville walk in the forest. So it's a major asset for this community, economic and in other ways. But this strip of 13 acres can be a real gateway to Ferguson Forest. 43 is how people come into Kemptville in many ways. It's one of the main access points for North Granville. It's a great opportunity to say, here's this fabulous place, stop, spend some money in Kemptville, go across the road and have a coffee, whatever, but just bring people's attention to that as a place they can pull in, walk to the forest, whatever. And you might even want to put a Tourism North Granville kiosk there. It's a logical place for people to stop when they first come in to Kemptville. And of course, we start thinking about, maps of the forest and where the trails are and other great places in North Granville that people can visit. Next slide, please. And my fifth point is that to have it on our main highway coming into the community speaks to who we are as a community. It says this place values green space, real green space, where it's not tucked away out of sight in a corner. It's here in the heart of the community. You come in, it's one of the things you see is this incredible little patch of forest right on 43, and it's a gateway to a much bigger patch of forest. And it provides that visual reinforcement to our identity as a community that values nature and values green spaces. And I know you all realize that this is one of the key considerations for some businesses about where they locate and for some people about where they live, is what kind of green space does this community offer? What does this community feel about green spaces? So we just think this is a tremendous opportunity to reinforce right there on our front doorstep how important it is to our community and to our identity as North Grenville. Next slide. So we would recommend that the lands be permanently protected as green space. We know that development is important. We know that housing is important. Heaven knows this community needs affordable housing. There are many, many possible locations for that. There's only one Ferguson Forest. And I think it really is important to protect that for everybody in the future. It's an asset for everyone. These lands are not idle. They are cleaning our air, they're cleaning our water, they're healing our souls for those of us who go there. It's just good for human beings to be in that kind of space. Now, obviously, you have smart people who can advise you on the technicalities of that. There's been lots of discussion about remove the overlay, return it to agricultural designation, collaborate with the counties about how it's protected. However you do that, I will leave it to wiser people who understand all the legalities about what the exact wording is. But I would just say this, that I trust you to act in good faith. And that if you say something that looks like we are protecting the lands, then I trust that you are doing something that actually protects the lands. One last slide, I think. We understand that more thinking needs to go into this idea. We know that there are some costs associated with creating it and maintaining it. I think Mr. Gillespie might have been a little bit overstating that. For example, for the 500 acres of the current Ferguson Forest, annual maintenance costs are about $25,000. Could be 50. We could spend the 50 if we had it, but really, because it's a forest, it's not a manicured urban park where every little flower is artfully arranged and has to be tended to 24 hours a day, and there's high-tech lighting everywhere you go, and yada, yada, yada. It would be a forest. That's not to say there wouldn't be amenities there, but modest, because it's a gateway to a forest. You don't want it to be something else. So anyway, the point is we're happy to put a little bit more work into it, dig out some relevant expertise. Ms. Papazzi seems to have tracked down a landscape architect or somebody who knows all about some of this stuff. We'd happily look for other people to try and provide this expertise here in the community, maybe even on a volunteer basis, whatever. Just try to get some ideas together to give it a little more substance and make it a little bit more real. Yeah, well, I could say a lot of things, but I'm going to leave it at that since I have 12 seconds left.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Just before you go, colleagues, yes, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you through you, Mayor Peckford, to Lynn. Thank you for your presentation. It's great. You said $25,000 a year to maintain 500 acres. Is that the forest? Is that the recreational amenities?
That's the forest.
Just the forest?
That's right.
Okay. So that doesn't include like the dog park, the disc golf, the arboretum, and the Indigenous Circle? That wouldn't include that, right?
I'm not familiar with the costs associated with the Arboretum. They're fairly modest. And I know the Indigenous Circle raises money to cover their costs fairly regularly, which are not an astronomical sum at all. The disc golf folks maintain their own space. It's a private club.
So they're not cutting the grass, they're cutting the grass and doing all that?
I don't know. But they're responsible for maintaining that space, so.
So then what you're saying is just the forest part is $25,000 a year?
That's my understanding.
And who's paying for that?
The corporation.
Of the Ferguson Forest Center. And so the municipality is paying for the rest of it? The road maintenance, the cutting of the grass, the picking up the garbage?
We pick up the garbage, by the way.
Okay, all right. No, I need to understand that.
Sure, there's lots of parts and pieces to it.
Yeah, okay. All right, thanks.
And maybe we'll just go to CEO Dunlop for some clarification, because I know there's some shared agreements and contributions. Go ahead.
Oh, yes, thank you, Your Worship. The municipality does provide some services to the Ferguson Tree Nursery for items such as mowing. We also grade and maintain the municipal seasonal roads, which are Veteran Honor Anniversary, as well as the dog park parking lot.
Thank you. Anything else for Lynn, colleagues? No? Okay. Well,
Thank you
thank you
very
so
much.
much. So colleagues, maybe before we get into the rest of the agenda, we take a short break and have a opportunity to just thank all of our guests, some of whom I think may be leaving. Again, I just want to highlight that there is no additional discussion in terms of the overlay this evening. We did, again, want to ensure that we had the benefit of all your comments and perspectives in anticipation of upcoming meetings in May, early June, and those will be well advertised so that you can tune back in if that's your interest. So I'll look for a mover and a seconder just to take a 10-minute break. Councillor Strachian and Councillor Sullivan, thank you. And I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, thank you so much.
Hey, Nathan, just making sure you can hear us.
I can hear you if you can hear me.
You're very loud in our room. It's great. Talk to you in a bit.
Awesome. Thanks.
I think we should be there by 8:06. Okay.
That's why we figured. Well, it's not. Judgment there. All day. Yeah, that's good. I'm just from the city. All of a sudden, people are doing something. You're not a free asshole in that. Thank you. You don't everywhere. Sorry. But sometimes you find interesting debate, because I can look at. Yeah. And then that's like that. Yeah. And my thing of it, let's just take that. So I'm sure you have to say this first, like myself. I lost it. It's a minute ago. Yeah. You shredded. But you know, we used to pull it.
Yeah, we were the 90s. We were church and the Lions. It was pretty new. So I think you were in a never went back. Are you there you would show this is my souvenir. Yeah. And then when I well, at least you bring them back. Yes, yes. Are you okay? Thanks for chatting.
Okay, colleagues, I think we should reconvene. You don't mind? Great to have a chance to connect with some of the residents and speakers who came out this evening. So appreciate your indulgence, council colleagues, on taking a bit of a break there. Next, as you'll know, we have our consent agenda. We have a number of items on our consent agenda, and I understand there may be a desire to pull a couple of them. Councillor Strachan, I know you had flagged one or two items.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to pull item H1, the 2025 Annual Integrity Commissioner Report, and item, H7, the Beth Donovan Hospice waiving building permit fees, please.
Excellent, thank you. And of course, any council member can pull any item on the consent agenda. It's completely at your discretion, colleagues. So if there's anything else that you wish to pull, let me know now. Seeing none, certainly we will proceed with the modifications, which I also wholeheartedly endorse, Councillor Strachan, so thanks for flagging those. So we'll look for a mover and a seconder for an amended consent agenda. Thank you. So Councillor Sullivan and Deputy Mayor. And I don't think we can invite comments or questions on the consent agenda. Just looking for a vote. All in favor, please. Thank you. That carries. And I believe we'll turn it over then to Ms. Dunlop just to speak briefly to the 2025 Annual Integrity Commissioner Report, which I think is a mandated report from the municipalities I see that must come at least once a year detailing any activity. So go ahead, Ms. Dunlop.
Thank you, Your Worship. The reason that this item was on the consent agenda is because it is considered administrative in nature based on the contents of the reports. So this report, as you've already said, does cover the services for the fiscal year 2025 as prepared by Tony Fleming of Cunningham Swan, Cardy, Little and Bonham LLP. It is for information purposes only. The Integrity Commissioner provides advisory services to members of council on roles, responsibilities, and obligations and code of conduct in accordance with sections 236.61 of the Municipal Act. So the annual report summarizes the volume of services provided for the year. And as a quick summary, the full report is attached to the agenda, but in 2025, the Integrity Commissioner received 2 requests for advice under the Code of Conduct and 1 complaint submitted to the Integrity Commissioner. The complaint was dismissed and no report submitted to Council, as the allegation was determined not to be a breach of the Code of Conduct. The cost for advice amounted to $284.86, and for the complaint was $2,627.25, and that completes my brief report.
Colleagues, any questions? I'm not seeing any. So with that, we would look to accepting the Integrity Commissioner Services Annual Report 2025 is prepared by Tony E. Fleming of Cunningham, Swan, Cardy, Little, and Bonham LLP for information. So mover and a seconder for that item, please. Councillor Strachan, Deputy Mayor, thank you. Seeing no comments or questions, I'll call the vote. All in favor? All right, that is received. Thank you. So next, we will go specifically to the Beth Donovan Hospice waiving of building permit fees. Ms. Martin.
Thank you, Your Worship. The municipality has received a request from the Beth Donovan Hospice to waive their building permit fee. At this time, we haven't received a building permit application in which we can calculate the fees, but an estimated value based on the renovation fees under our bylaw, we're projecting it should be at or around $6,000. But again, that would be more refined as part of the building permit review. As part of our process, we do collect an initial fee of $1,701. Don't ask me about the $1. It's somehow not a round number. But at the end of the day, that's the initial fee that's paid for review. If council waives it this evening, we wouldn't collect that as part of that review process because we would just provide this resolution to our building staff. And as our building division is a standalone department, from a budgeting perspective, we do have to make them whole. So we'd be doing a transfer from reserves for the final value of the building permit, which we would work with finance to complete that transfer. Thank you.
Colleagues, any questions? Deputy Mayor, apologies, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Director Martin. It's just a simple question. Does the building department not have their own reserve to draw from?
Thank you for the question, Deputy Mayor. From an accounting perspective, the intent of the building reserve isn't to fund to offer funds for the reduction or covering or waiving of fees. It is simply a reserve where in years where they see a surplus, the surplus is put into a reserve. And if there's a year where it's a little more lean, and we do tend to have a bit of a cycle every so many years, we have some great growth. Then we see a downturn in building permits. We do withdraw on those reserves from an administrative standpoint. Legislatively, because they are standalone and how they operate, their operation is entirely funded through their building permit fees. So that's what that reserve functions as. It's not intended to be used for waiving of fees or to pay for other items outside of the function of the building department.
Is there anything preventing us from doing that? You said, is there legislation that prevents us from drawing from that reserve?
Thank you for the question through your worship to the Deputy Mayor. I can provide clarity to council after the meeting as to the precise rules around the building reserve and how it functions and operates from a legislative perspective. I don't have that information here this evening, and I would want to follow up with finance. Perhaps we might even have a bylaw or a policy on file that regulates how that reserve is to be utilized. So the intent is to not, again, pay for the waiving of fees for building permit applications. It's entirely to support the operation of the building division.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, colleagues? Ms. Martin, my only, I guess, question or consideration in regards to the waiving of permit fees is whether or not it would be prudent for council to set a maximum amount, right, for the waiving of those fees. I understand it's difficult to calculate now. I'm hearing somewhere around $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. Obviously, I think from council's perspective, it might be helpful to offer just a little bit of specificity. I think we generally are supportive of the waiving of fees, but without a precise amount, it's hard to know whether or not the waiving of those fees might exceed what your understanding is now. So maybe you could share a little bit more insight into that.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would recommend that if you were to impose a ceiling on the amount to waive, I would build in a little bit of a buffer. $7,000 I think should be adequate. If the value comes in higher, we can always come back to council, although we try to avoid coming back multiple times for the same matter if we can. But that would be my recommendation. That just builds in a little bit of a buffer. So perhaps amending the resolution to say up to a maximum of $7,000 would satisfy so that it's not left open-ended.
maybe to your point of having a buffer and avoiding having to come back, I mean, I'd be comfortable with 75 or 8,000 if you felt the upper limit was closer to that. So we defer to you in terms of what that amount is, but totally understand why we just want to do this once. And I think we're all very supportive of the request.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think $7,000 should be adequate. A rough estimate based on square footage of the renovation. I think we come under that value. But again, until we actually get the permit application, it is hard to gauge that.
Okay. Councillor Strahan?
Madam Mayor, to the Director of Planning, I'd be supportive as well of going up to $8,000 just to give that buffer, and then we don't need to go back and forth. Obviously, the amount is going to be the amount. It's based on the square footage, so there's not really any room for fudging any numbers anyway. So I would recommend 8,000 as well. Thank you.
All right. So if there are no other comments, colleagues, maybe we can look at the recommendation that council waives the building permit fees for the Beth Donovan Hospice up to $8,000 related to the renovation of their building at 1107 French Settlement Road, and that council directs the value of the waived fees be transferred from the working general reserve to the building department reserve. So I'll look for a mover and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Thank you, Councillor O'Sullivan. Motions on the table. Any other comments or concerns at this stage? Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
I hate to nitpick, but part of this resolution is asking us to transfer from general reserves into the building department reserve. So technically, the fees are covered by the building department reserve. Is there better language to use?
Right.
Having heard that we can't use the building department reserve for waiving fees?
Ms. Martin, do you want to comment on that?
Thank you, Your Worship, to the Deputy Mayor. I'm just pulling up the resolution that just shows on the agenda.
I think it's
Working,
a
so
wordsmithing.
the intent is that council directs that the value of the waive fees be transferred from the working general reserve, which is our general working reserve for the municipality, to the building department reserve. And again, that's just covering off because it's realized revenue, then it can be transferred into the reserve itself.
I see we're treating the transfer as revenue, and
Yes.
we can draw from revenue to cover
Correct.
waiving fees.
Yes, through Your Worship to the Deputy Mayor. So then the value of those waived fees will be transferred from our general working reserve to cover off that revenue. So then there's not the building division is not sitting at a loss revenue wise for just waiving of those fees. It's being covered off through that transfer.
What would happen if we had a full stop after working general reserve, period, rather than saying it's going to the building department reserve? And this is a nitpicky question, so please indulge me.
Through Your Worship to the Deputy Mayor, I think from a financing perspective, identifying where it's coming from and where it's going to is best practice. Leaving it open-ended, I believe it would just, again, the intent is to make the building division whole as outlined in the report. So it would be directed to the appropriate account that would cover off that loss of revenue because the decision was to waive the fees.
So I'm going to recognize Councillor Sullivan, and then I'm going to ask Ms. Dunlop to weigh in, given her understanding of the issue. Councillor Sullivan.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. Perhaps CAO Dunlop will sort out my question, but I was just going to say, why does it need to go to reserves if it gets transferred from general reserves at the time you need it, then it just goes into your current account for the fees as if they had paid them, like rather than in a reserve fund.
Maybe we'll ask Ms. Dunlop or Ms. Martin. Ms. Dunlop, why don't you go? Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So just like the water and sewer department, the building department has a silo budget. It is by a legislation that it creates. It has to be self-sufficient. Hence the building reserve. On lean years, they draw from. On good years, they put in. So the intent is that, let's say that the fees are $8,000 for the Beth Donovan Hospice. The $8,000 would come from the municipal general reserves going into the building department reserves as per legislation. So that's the difference. The actual legislation, I don't know the actual name of it right now, but it is identified as part of our budget. You will notice that they are specifically and identified separately. But in order to waive fees for things that are not automatically exempt by the province, we would have to do this transfer from general, either general levy or general revenue or general reserves into to make the building department whole.
Councillor Sullivan?
If I may, a supplemental question. Is there two different accounts in the building department? Do they have a building reserve fund? And do they have an operational fund? Because if this is an operational expense they need to account for, the fees are waived, but they come from the municipal account, they shouldn't really go to reserves. They should go into your operating account. And then what if we transfer 8,000 right now from our reserves to their reserves, and then they have to pull it out of their reserves when they use it, and if they only need 7,000, then do they transfer 1,000 back? It just seems more complicated to me. But
Ms. Dunlop?
Thank you, Your Worship. And now I understand your question and confusion. Okay, so the intent is that the $8,000 building permit fee would be paid for from general municipal reserves or rather than building permit. So it would be from the general reserves would pay the building permit fee. If at the end of the year that goes to the reserves, that goes to the reserves. So I think that is the confusion that we've created. So the 8,000 or whatever the building permit fee would be paid for from general reserves as a fee to the building department.
Councillor Strachian? Oh, we don't have functioning mics on this end. Ms. McKenna, are you able to share yours? No, it's not working either. Okay, we have a bit of a technical issue, so I think we're going to have to take 30 seconds. No, you won't be captured on the live screen. Right. Reverting to the handheld.
Okay, is that working? The recommendation does not say to transfer $8,000. The recommendation, through Madam Mayor, says that council directs the value of the waived fees be transferred. So there wouldn't be 8,000 in, $1,000 out, $50 in. There wouldn't be no back and forth. It would be once the final amount is determined. This is just pre-authorizing that amount.
Okay. So Ms. Janot, just on the technical issues we're experiencing, I think for the climate action plan discussion, we would benefit from ensuring that Councillor Wilson and Strachian have access to this versus the handheld. So I'm hopeful that we can find some working mics as a consequence. Okay, so why don't I call the question on this and we'll have to take a minute to sort it out. Okay, so colleagues, I think we've arrived at the clarity that we require, and we have a mover and a seconder, and I'm going to call the vote. All in favor? Excellent, that passes. And I'm going to look to Councillor Strachian and Deputy Mayor to move a short break so that we can resolve the technical matters on this side, because there are no functioning mics on this side of the House. So I'm calling the question on a break to resolve technical matters. All in favor? All right, thanks.
That one's
now it's working.
They're working.
Check, check. We restarted our. We got today.
So Mike's working? No.
Red.
All right, colleagues, I think we've resolved the technical challenges. We've concluded the 2 items that were pulled from the consent agenda. So now we're moving down to the climate action plan. And I understand, Ms. Janot, you'll be kicking things off for us.
Through your worship, you have to do the minutes of the previous
Oh.
meetings first.
I apologize. Thank you. Minutes of previous meeting. Council colleagues, you'll see that we have the special council meetings from April 7th and regular council meeting minutes from April 7th. And I'd look to a mover and a seconder to bring those motions to the floor. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And I believe there's someone online. Maybe we can mute them until we're ready. Indeed. So we have Deputy Mayor and Councilor Wilson. Would you like to move the minutes, please? Thank you. I'll look for any comments or questions on the minutes. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, please. Thank you. So next, now, Ms. Janot, I think you're back up on the climate action plan. I believe you'll introduce the colleague that's on the line with us. Okay.
Absolutely. So good evening, Council. I'm happy to present to you tonight the community's first climate action plan. And I'm joined online by Nathan Mannion from Greenscale Inc., who helped us pull all our data and community engagement pieces together in a coherent plan. And you'll see there's Nathan there on your screens, and he'll pop up as well. I'll go through the presentation, and if there's any questions that I can't answer, Nathan's certainly the expert, and I'll hand it over to him. So next slide, please, Santi. Council committed to sustainability with the adoption of a forward-thinking strategic plan in 2022. There was also work being done across departments related to climate action and by committees, but there wasn't really one document pulling this all together. In October 2025, Council joined the Partners for Climate Protection program, which includes the Milestone Framework. This is a prescribed method for creating and reporting on a climate action plan. Next slide, please. This slide lays out the steps that are prescribed. So in order to address steps 1 to 3, staff began work in the fall of 2025 to action them. I want to underline the fact that this approach really is one that is data informed. The goal of a climate action plan is to reduce emissions, so that was the focus. Although throughout the plan, we also talk about supportive initiatives that we heard throughout the engagement, and certainly tonight as well from community members that are important to the community. And a lot of those will be further addressed more solidly through a future adaptation plan. Next slide, please. We conducted community and stakeholder engagement in the fall, which included meeting with the relevant advisory committees, some whose members are here tonight, Sustainable North Grenville members, including Tom Graham, who was very helpful in distributing our information, and a public engagement session. At that time, we also began working on the baseline inventory. Data was provided by several divisions within the municipality, most particularly in the Public Works, Parks, Recreation, and Culture departments. As part of the PCP program, we have access to their calculator tool. This allows us to more easily calculate emissions and also compare to other communities by using consistent methods. It also allowed us to take the input on potential actions that we heard in the fall from the community and to calculate their potential impact. In March and the beginning of April, we took the inventory and draft actions back to the committees and to Sustainable North Grenville members for review. This was also shared with all the internal departments, and we had consultation with the Public Works team. The feedback we received has been considered and factored into the climate action plan that is before you tonight. Tonight, we are hoping Council will adopt the plan so we can begin actioning this important work. I want to note that the only thing that changed in the final plan before you tonight from the documents that were socialized with the committees over the last several weeks is adding 3 specific actions related to agriculture, which were in the document shared, just not highlighted, and adding narrative pieces to pull the plan together. Next slide, please. To give you an idea of what we heard, community members felt as a municipality, we should focus on our biggest sources of emissions and look at using policy to address minimizing future emissions. Of the many suggestions from the community for reducing community emissions, nature-based solutions and focusing on education stood out. Other suggestions, which are considered supplemental actions as they don't directly affect reductions in emissions, include seeking funding and partners and finding innovative solutions, including in agriculture. On this slide, you can also see one of the boards from the public engagement session, as well as a table that was put together by 2 of our students, Riley and Claire, who we had the pleasure of working with over the last few semesters. Next slide, please. Moving into the data side of things, this slide illustrates the biggest cause and sources of emissions from the community. As you can see, transportation dominates due to the large number of people that commute to work. Transportation is typically the highest piece of the chart for most communities, but 90% is on the higher end. Next slide, please. For corporate emissions, not surprisingly, our facilities and fleet are our two biggest sources of emissions. And as you'll see, the actions related to the municipality are related specifically to these. Next slide, please. The plan centers around three priority areas: supporting the reduction of community emissions, reducing municipal emissions, and leveraging innovative tools to expand climate action. This last category doesn't have any specific actions attached to it, as these are supporting more intangible actions. For example, throughout the plan, you'll see references to seeking partnerships and funding, as well as moving forward with a future adaptation plan, which focuses on preserving the natural environment. Next slide, please. For the other two categories, the actions fall into the below identified sections. We want to highlight that underlying the community actions, communication will play an important role. Next slide, please. The next few slides lay out all the actions in an easy to read chart. This is included in the plan, and I won't go into specific detail about them, otherwise we will be here very late. But I do want to highlight a few. So, for example, on these slides, you'll see the proposed timelines, and this slide focuses on actions in direct control of the municipality. So as you can see, they focus on our facilities and our buildings. Next slide, please. In this slide, we still have a few more corporate actions, but then we transition into the community-focused actions, starting with the transportation sector. And in the full plan document, you'll see the estimated impact each of these actions will have over time. Next slide, please. Again, we continue for community missions here. I'll highlight here that as we progress throughout the plan, new actions and initiatives that arise can be added, and Nathan has provided us a tool so that we can estimate the impact those actions will have, like we have done for the current actions. Next slide, please. Here we have more related to community emissions. As you can see, each action has an identified lead department or division. While the corporate strategy department will ultimately be responsible for spurring the overall plan forward and reporting on it, we will obviously rely heavily on the work of our other departments. Next slide, please. And last, these last two, and the one on the last slide as well, are the few agriculture initiatives that, again, they were in the feasibility study that we shared with the committees, but after talking with the agriculture committee, we felt it best to really pull these out and identify them clearly for the work that can be done in that important sector. Next slide, please. So based on the baseline data and proposed actions, the following targets are proposed. These targets are in line with other communities and are higher than those suggested by the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. It's important to highlight here that while the proposed actions so far identified in the plan may not get us to reaching these targets, we can add actions over time, and what is most important is to be making incremental progress towards net zero. Next slide, please. As we move forward, the corporate strategy team is excited to get to work on these important initiatives. We have a graduate student starting with us in May. This is our first climate action co-op student who will be focusing on taking our first steps. This concludes my presentation, and Nathan and I are happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So colleagues, of course, this is a very fulsome plan, which is wonderful to see, and lots of content here. So at this stage of the game, look forward to any questions or observations you might have about the proposed plan and its actions. So I'll look to colleagues for any comments at this stage. I did want to clarify, Ms. Jeannot, in the presentation, all of the actions that are highlighted under the plan are, I should say, the actions highlighted under the plan in the presentation are a consolidation of all the proposed actions contained in the climate action plan. Is that right?
Correct. So the charts specifically that I showed on the slides are kind of the first appendix at the end of the report, but all the actions are kind of spread throughout the plan as we touch on each sector.
But there's no action here that's left out from your presentation, correct? You pulled
There
them
couldn't
all.
be unless I made a mistake.
I don't think you have. I'm just making sure that I'm referring to the right document in terms of my own observations. I also would like to recognize, obviously, we have members of the Mayor's Task Force here, as well as CDAC and Sustainable North Grenville. So I see Councillor O'Sullivan's hand, so I'll recognize her first, and then I'll welcome other comments from council colleagues. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Janot, and to the people who supported you in preparing this document. I think it's great to have this framework so that we can move forward in the right direction for mitigating the effects of climate change and doing everything that we can to preserve our planet and our environment here. So I do have quite a few comments or questions, but and I do have references to the pages, so it may be a little out of sync, but I'll do my best to clarify things. So I wasn't surprised at all to see that takeaway number 1 was transportation in terms of dominating the North Grenville emissions. It does talk about that takeaway number 1 is how important it is to change how people travel. And so I would like to recommend that this plan could include things that are not quite so car-centric. I find overall it's very automobile-centric. And the term bicycle, I couldn't find it at all. There is reference to active transportation, but nothing specific to that. And it does say that transportation is where the plan will succeed or fail. And so for a lot of local transportation, people could cycle or walk, and that infrastructure is lacking, as we know. And tonight, in one of the presentations earlier, we heard about how Kemptville people working Kemptville jobs, and those people wouldn't be on the long commutes to Ottawa or out of the town. Another one was I think if my memory serves me correctly, a few years ago, there was a plan and there was an order for bicycles for the bylaw department so that they would be more effectively able to patrol the Ferguson Forest and the rail trail, for example, or Settlers Trail. And there was a supply issue, I think, during the pandemic, and we were waiting on those bicycles to arrive. I don't know if they've ever arrived. I don't know whatever happened with that plan. Does bylaw have bicycles for their staff at this point? I don't know. So that's one question. On page 13, there was another takeaway about natural heritage is the only action area that delivers on both mitigation and adaptation. And tree canopy and buffering is very important, and it is a governance commitment that's required to have, as you put it in the document, or as it was stated in the document, that it's a forest first approach. So I think it's really important that we always keep that in mind and really walk the talk when we are doing any development, that we talk about forest first. I mean, we heard a lot earlier this evening about trees and green space and how important it is, not only for aesthetics and mental health and general health and wellness, but for climate action and for sequestering carbon dioxide. And so I think page 65 also says that it's very important to begin the natural asset inventory now, and I would like to see that kind of given priority. On page 35, it talks about publicly accessible EV charging stations, and yet I think, in my opinion, there are currently not enough bike racks in town, and yet we're going to go ahead and have more EV charging. Again, it makes it a little more car-centric than more active transportation. And since transportation is one of the biggest problems. I think so I'd like to see less emphasis on vehicles in the plan. Page 36 talks about corporate waste and that North Grenville Municipality holds its own operations to the same standards as it applies to residents. And yet it does say about recycling and organic waste. And yet within the last month, I believe all recycle bins have been removed from the municipal buildings. So I think that if that's the reality right now, that would probably need to be updated. But again, I would like to see us be more walking the talk in terms of recycling in this building, using green bins in the building. And really, we still have bottled water on site at a lot of functions, and yet we have the Blue Community Initiative, and I thought that by this time there wouldn't be any bottled water at sites. So on page 64, the very last sentence says that EV charging infrastructure should be built ahead of demand. And again, that's a very car-centric action. In a similar way, I would like to see active transportation also built ahead of demand. So I've said this frequently, that there should not be any further development west of County Road 44 until and unless there is active transportation, multi-use path linkages to the new development that goes on. Because right now, it's not safe, it's not feasible for anyone to ride a bike or walk from the new developments at this point. And the document doesn't talk about kids biking to and from school, to sports activities, to the park, or to part-time jobs. There's a lot of reference to people driving to places of work, but there's no reference to kids biking to and from school or to their sports or to just visit their friends, etc. Page 74, M2, which was in your chart in the presentation, solar panels. I think, if I remember correctly, there was a previous study done by the Director of Parks and Rec, and that this roof here could not support solar panels. Perhaps that's changed. If so, that's a wonderful idea. I mean, it's a large space that could be upgraded to take advantage of potential solar energy. If so, that's wonderful. I'm happy to see that. Again, page 75, W1 talks about corporate waste in the municipal buildings. And again, expand the green bin and recycling at all municipal facilities and events. That's on page 75. And yet that seems to be not happening anymore. T2 talks about parking spots. Well, I'd like to see parking for bikes given the same consideration as parking for vehicles and not just stuck off in a corner out of sight somewhere. Again, car-centric, there's parking spots for vehicles right at the doors, and yet bicycles get stuck off into a far corner. There is a City of Ottawa bicycle parking guideline that is available and has been shared. And I think that there's a lot of good information in that with respect to style, design, and the location of bike racks. And agriculture, I didn't see anything about waste, all the excessive plastic that's used in agriculture, farming, like all the plastic that's rolled around, bales. I'd like to see if there's some way that could be acknowledged and maybe mitigated, the use of that, or how it can be recycled. So again, I want to thank you for this plan and for all the work that I know went into it, because it's a really important and it's very comprehensive. And I would just like these comments for the record and a few things if we can have any of these changes implemented. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Janot, would you like to respond now prior to other council members highlighting a few things?
Absolutely. There's a lot there, so I just want to make sure I get to it all. So active transportation is addressed in action item T2. It speaks to completing the active transportation plan, so we will rely heavily on that work. Transportation is largely driven in this plan by commuter data to Ottawa. We use census data. This is the prescribed method of the PCP framework. So that's why the focus is not necessarily on active transportation, because the data really looks at those commuting to Ottawa, which is the biggest source of emissions. For bicycles for the bylaw department, Director Martin has confirmed that we do have bicycles and there is an implementation plan in place. Regarding natural heritage, absolutely, we agree that's very important. You can see that there are a couple actions related to that. We will be investigating, though, the Bill 98, which is going to limit what municipalities can enforce on private property regarding trees. Regarding doing a tree inventory, absolutely. I know the Mayor's Task Force talked about it last night as well, and it sounds like it is an action they are moving forward with. Regarding EV charging, again, the report might seem a little car-centric because, again, the biggest emitter is our transportation. Regarding the municipality waste management program, so recycling is coming back to our municipal facility. There was a blip in service when the province switched over to producer program because we're technically a producer, so we couldn't get picked up during our regular curb service anymore. So we had to get a contract in place to address our facilities. Regarding solar panels on this building, we'll have to look for that study. I'm not aware of it, but we'll certainly look into that. And regarding agriculture, excessive plastic and farming, so that necessarily wouldn't be addressed in this plan. Again, we're trying to reduce emissions with this plan, but could be something that perhaps we look into with our adaptation plan or just in continuing conversations with farmers. They seemed interested in potential land use management tactics that can be used to study their soils and how that could improve the work they do. So definitely we'll take note of that.
Okay, great, thank you. Other comments, colleagues, in regards to the plan at this stage? Thank you, Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just echo what Councillor O'Sullivan said in terms of all the work that's gone into it, and I think it's wonderful that we've got a baseline data that we can track our progress. But I think from my council colleagues' questions, there's a lot of concern about other, if we were looking right across the departments through an environmental lens, you've gotten a lot of feedback from the advisory committees and I'm sure from staff. But I think it's a great first step, and I'm just curious about what the next step is, certainly in terms of addressing some of these other suggestions in different areas. Reducing greenhouse gases, sure, vehicles, automobiles are the biggest factor, but we went through a drought last summer. People were concerned about their wells out in the rural areas, even in the urban service area. This weekend, I was watching like a hawk at my sump pump because my backup was not working. We've got additional rain, et cetera. So I'm curious about how this draft document or how your research and possibly Mr. Mannion could address this in terms of what kind of literature review that was done of the existing master plans that we have. And I think specifically of the stormwater, the recent water and wastewater management plan or master plan, excuse me, because I note that document lists climate change 21 times. And I looked at it recently, and certainly looking for the next step should, I would hope, take a more comprehensive look at all the different departments and all the different ways that we can approach climate change mitigation in a number of different areas. Certainly water, preserving wetlands, et cetera. It's pretty comprehensive about all the different areas that we could nibble away at the problem. Granted, greenhouse gas, getting a baseline level is important, but I'm really concerned about not losing momentum and what the next step is in terms of looking at these other areas where we can mitigate climate change. Thank you.
Through your worship. So absolutely on page 15, you'll see Nathan's done a great job of describing the difference between mitigation and adaptation. So mitigation is the stage we're at. Adaptation is where we will go, and we'll address a lot of what you're talking about in terms of natural assets, stormwater, water in general. And as well, the big first step is to do this climate action plan, which opens up a lot of doors for funding and partnerships for climate adaptation. So FCM, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, has a lot of support that they can give for adaptation work, but you have to have this action plan completed first. They want to see that you've done that baseline inventory and that you've taken those first steps to commit to climate action and reducing emissions before they'll start funding the adaptation work. I'll ask Nathan if he has anything to add in terms of an future adaptation plan, but yeah.
No, I think you did a great job of describing the difference between them. And yeah, that's really the main difference. Mitigation is about removing and reducing those emissions that cause climate change. And adaptation is about finding ways to essentially adapt to what's happening. So this might be about better retrofits for homes in floodplains, better riparian protection for hydrology, those types of things. So yeah, no, I think you did a great job.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, not being on any of the advisory committees where this was shopped around, I'm curious about the restrictions on funding. Is FCM the primary source to develop our action plan? And they required a baseline of greenhouse gas emissions. Was there anything else that they required, that we have a commitment to net zero by a certain year? Was that part of their requirements? Because I don't see it in the recommendation here to adopt the plan. There's no commitment to achieving that goal in the recommendation or in the motion suggested.
Through your worship. So FCM is a large funder in the climate space, but there are plenty others. When we were working with the Public Works Department, they actually specifically said this plan will help us get access to water funding that we can't currently access. Anytime we write a grant right now, they are asking for a climate plan to show that we are committed to reducing emissions and doing that work.
Yeah, I don't see any commitment in the recommendation, just to adopt the plan, but not a commitment to a specific goal. Is that possible at this point?
Through your worship, I'd say having the goals identified in the plan is enough by adopting the plan, but if council wanted to add another resolution which calls out the goals specifically, you're more than welcome to, but it's not necessary.
Certainly, Deputy Mayor, just before I go to Councillor Wilson, I hear what you're saying in terms of restating the emission reduction targets as part of the motion. I think that can be considered. So recommendation to council is a recommendation. So I think we can strengthen the language if there's value in doing that. It was something I was reflecting on myself as I was reading through the report. But it's really at our discretion how we want to structure the motion to accept and enact the aspects of the report. I do have a couple of questions, but I will reserve them until the end. So I see Councillor Wilson, is that right? And Councillor Strahan, do you have your? Okay, great.
Yeah. Thank you, through you, Mayor Peckford. Great report. I understand it's a baseline for us here. We have to get started, and I appreciate how it was all brought together. We have so many different silos that we're working in this municipality. We have the Sustainability North Grenville. We have the Environmental Action Committee. We've got working through CDAC, the Mayor's Task Force on Clean Energy or Clean Tech. I think we all need to come to the table and come up with one purpose, well, there'll be several purposes, but I think we were all approached separately and differently, and we're all working on different things. And maybe sometime after we pass this, we can have a coming together moment where we can all talk and help each other out. Ag and Rural Affairs is another committee that is also working towards some things. So, and not only that, we also have the conservation authorities that are involved, and I'll let Councillor Strahan speak to that, because both of us do sit on the conservation authorities. There's lots of plans in the works within our municipality that happening now. It's just not about the emissions. There's more to it. So thank you.
Councillor Strachan?
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much, Ms. Janot, and the work that you've done on this. I know we've seen you at various committees and you've received lots of comments. Beyond our municipal committees, I'd like to say thank you to Sustainable North Grenville. I know they've worked very hard at putting comments together and reviewing the documentation. And I know that you've incorporated their suggestions as well for areas of improvement in the climate action plan. So thank you for that. Overall, I think you've hit most of the areas. We have to get started. You know, what's the best time to plant a tree 25 years ago? What's the next best time today, kind of thing? I'm probably not getting that one right, but close enough. And so I think we do need to get started on this. So making sure that we can move forward in a timely manner and start making some significant changes so that we can start seeing these reductions. 20% by 2031 is not insignificant and requires work. That's not too far down the line. So I think my comments are more so not on what's next, but how do we get there? How you've mentioned grants and funding from FCM. How are we getting the money, but also the expertise needed, the people needed to do this work, as well as track all of it, the reporting of it. So there's the funding and the technical expertise. So maybe you could offer some insight into how you're going to achieve this work with those two things in mind. Thank you.
Through your worship, it's definitely a daunting task given the amount of work that our department works on and our small team. But like I said, we're very fortunate to have a very seasoned and talented graduate student starting with us on May 11th. So one of his first tasks will be taking this plan and looking at an implementation plan. So realistically, what can we complete in the first few years and what's it going to cost us to do that? And what partners and sources of funding can we access to make it happen?
If I may just follow up. So that's great for the summer, and then I think that's fantastic. Is there a way, are we looking at internally building up capacity and expertise? Are we bringing new staff on or building current expertise with the existing staff so that we have more of a sustained baseline of individuals that can work on the climate adaptation strategy that may come out of the students' work?
Through your worship, other than utilizing resources such as our CSL program, our Community Service Learning Program with the U of Ottawa, which is how we got to partner up with folks like Riley and Claire to help us with some of this work so far. We'll also be using consultants like Nathan and others as we go through this work to lean on their expertise, as well as our committees. We know our committees have a wealth of knowledge that we can definitely draw on. I don't believe our organization review has identified any additional staff in our department, but should council want to move in that direction, I would happily accept that.
I think it's certainly something I think we need to consider. Not making any decisions tonight or any recommendations, but in order to get there from here, consultants, they're great for a purpose, for a fixed, very precise, package of work that you want to have completed, not for the long term. That becomes very cost prohibitive very quickly to have a consultant on in a long-term contract. So I think we maybe need to think about how we can approach this more holistically. So 2050 is a long ways away, long enough at least, that we want to be able to plan for that. So maybe some thought can be given to that. Probably not for this term of council, but it's something that in the future. In addition to that, I've forgotten my second point. I will come back to it if I remember it. Apologies. Thank you.
Great, and thank you to each of you, colleagues, for giving this plan some serious consideration. I would be remiss to not acknowledge some key actors in the key players, community advocates who've been heavily engaged in aspects of this discussion. And with your indulgence, Council, I would like to just cast my glance up to them and see if any of them wish to speak at this juncture. I know we did receive a formal communication from Sustainable North Grenville, I think at some point today. So if there's any comment you wish to offer before we proceed to a recommendation, then please, Mr. Graham in particular. come on down. Yes, Councillor Strickland.
I've remembered my second point.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then we can
I knew I'd
ask
get to
Mr.
it.
Graham to
Yes,
come down.
but he can come on down
Yes.
in the meantime. It's a very quick point, if that works.
Yes, of course.
So to Councillor Wilson's point about the various advisory committees working on different approaches, there's definite overlap between a couple of them that we've just discussed on as a sidebar. And so I think, you know, it's not efficient to do it in that way. And so it would be great to have perhaps a climate action plan working group or something like that, where there's subsets from all these committees who can come together and talk about them so that the sharing of ideas and the planning for this goes forward in a more efficient way so that we're not stepping on each other's toes. So that, just to echo what Councillor Wilson has suggested, I think that would be a good way forward. Thank you.
For sure. So we'll welcome Mr. Graham to the table on behalf of, I think, Sustainable North Grenville. And obviously, we understand that you engaged council very early in this process and have remained quite attuned as things have evolved, and appreciate that obviously the group has taken some time to really look at the plan and provide some additional communications just in the last 24 hours. So welcome any reflections you have at this stage.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good evening, Mayor and Council. Thanks on behalf of Sustainable North Grenville. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I have a couple of comments. I think you're right. We did start back in 2024 urging this council to consider ways to continue to make our community more resilient. And one of those things was a climate action plan, which I know was at that time, I think, in the early stages. So with this report, first we want to acknowledge and congratulate the municipality and staff on the significant work that's been done to bring us to this point, including the consultant, who's looking down on us from my perspective, but probably not the way you're seeing, me. Completing a community-wide greenhouse gas inventory is a critical first step. For the first time, we now have a clear and credible picture of where our emissions come from and allows us to measure progress over time. The Climate Action Plan builds on that work and establishes our first structured pathway towards net zero by 2050. And I do appreciate the consideration of whether or not adopting the plan is a commitment to the goal, so you guys don't have to work that out. It's an important milestone for this community and deserves to be recognized. At the same time, as has already been pointed out by several councillors here, this plan marks the beginning of the work ahead. The science-based targets that have been adopted are ambitious and rightly so, or that hopefully will be adopted, are ambitious and rightly so, but the analysis underlying this plan makes something equally clear. Achieving these targets will require major changes across the municipality over time. This means the plan must be more than a document, it must be a living process, I think, which has been hinted at as well. It must be continuously verified against real-world results. It must be assessed for effectiveness as actions are implemented, and it must be measured regularly against its benchmarks to ensure that we are actually bending the curve, not just slowing its growth. To do that properly, the work must be properly budgeted for. With sustained capacity, including dedicated staff time, technical expertise, and ongoing evaluation, we reduce the risk of having a plan that looks good on paper, but in practice doesn't deliver the outcomes we need. And timing matters. One of the clearest lessons from the analysis that early action has the greatest impact. Investments made now, whether in infrastructure, planning decisions, or fleet transitions, compound over time and make later targets achievable. I'm over halfway done. Delays, on the other hand, do not simply slow progress, they can make success unattainable. The longer we wait, the scale of change required becomes steeper, more costly, and more disruptive. And we're already many years behind many of our neighboring municipalities in doing this work. The best time to act is now. Finally, we want to emphasize the importance of how this work needs to be embedded across the municipality as an organization. And I credit the consultant with, in section 6.1 under governance, has a number of good descriptions of that way of doing things. The plan rightly points towards the need for climate lens in decision-making. Council has the authority to provide direction to encourage and enable a whole of government approach to climate action. Every department, planning, public works, finance, procurement, economic development, needs access to the information, tools, and resources required to integrate climate considerations into their day-to-day work. The decisions made across all parts of the organization shape our emissions trajectory, our resilience, and our long-term sustainability. Embedding that understanding across the municipality is one of the most powerful steps we can take. We want to close by saying that this community is ready to move forward. There's strong local commitment to emissions reductions and to building a more sustainable future. Residents, businesses, and community groups are already taking action. We are asking the municipality to partner with that action, that energy, to lead, to coordinate, and help scale the changes that are needed. This plan is a strong and necessary first step. What matters now is how we act on it. We look forward to continuing to work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. While Mr. Graham is here, are there any comments or questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
I will add that I have had a chance to speak with my colleagues or the other gentlemen on this side of the room with the Mayor's Task Force on Clean Energy, particularly about the report and sharing some of their positive feelings about it, but also the natural asset inventory that's that should be undertaken soonest. I would personally like to see that moved higher up on the action items as well. So thank you.
Thank you. And for context, council colleagues, as Mr. Graham has referenced, there is a significant motion arising from the Mayor's Task Force where some remaining dollars that were allocated to the task force are being recommended to council for the activation of a natural asset inventory that would be led in partnership with Algonquin College. So that's not for tonight because I believe it's being addressed quickly at SLT tomorrow, but we do hope to see that motion return to this table sooner rather than later, just owing to some time sensitivities in regards to a potential partnership with Algonquin. So that's on the natural asset mapping in particular. Apart from that, obviously, I can make all sorts of comments about some of the objectives captured in the plan, and I believe it for this moment we're in is a very strong start. I too think there are some areas that have been underdeveloped. Quite frankly, I'm someone who drives extensively both within and outside the municipality, and I certainly do my best on behalf of myself and my children and the community writ large to seize opportunities to not be in a vehicle. But there are some real challenges, and I have to tell you, I don't actually feel that confident that cycling in North Grenville is always safe. We have narrow roads, we have rural roads, we have a lack of shoulders, and that's not for a lack of effort, but structurally, this is a community that doesn't have a lot of dedicated pathways where you can really assure better safety and segregation between pedestrians and drivers. So it does pose some challenges when we're thinking about how to get people out of their cars, particularly younger residents who, we're hoping that they embrace the new ways of the future and really look beyond the automobile as a way to get around. So I think the plan and the efforts are really wonderful, but I do think there are a couple of gaps. And with that in mind, I wanted to put forward to council a couple of considerations in terms of a recommendation this evening. So if you've been watching me, I've sort of just been writing some notes. I wonder if we could consider a recommendation or a motion, it's a motion, to approve the emission reduction targets of 20% by 2031, 45% by 2036, and net zero by 2050. So that would be the first part of the recommendation. Secondarily, of course, I think what I'm hearing is that we would also move to approve the climate action plan as presented. But thirdly, as I was reading through the report with the time I had available, I could see very clearly that Maginot has identified that implementation plan as being fundamental to the success of the plan. As some of you know, my sister was one of the, in fact, the first environmental progress officer for the municipality of Caledon so many years ago. And I got to see up close the evolution of a municipality that started at ground zero and in fact grew a department dedicated to climate change mitigation from 1 to 4 individuals, because as you become more robust in your efforts, you need more people. So I do think it would be worthwhile with the time we have left in this term to actually invite Ms. Jeannot back to present a draft implementation plan based upon the work, of course, of what sounds like a excellent and highly motivated and talented student. And through the presentation of that draft implementation plan, I'd like to see both the emphasis on internal efforts specific to the municipality, but also learn a little bit more in regards to some of the community-generated initiatives, because there is power in this community. There's a lot of excitement in this community. From the minute I moved here, the sustainability fair was one of the signature events. So I think there's a lot of momentum that can be capitalized on. So a third part of that motion, to be clear, council colleagues, would be to ask that Ms. Jeannot return to council this October, the early part of October, or no later than the early part of October, so that we could receive and hear and respond to a draft implementation plan that highlights both internal efforts and community-generated commitments. Of course, I think we're all extremely clear that this term of council will be ending before too long, but I think it's incumbent upon us as a council that's really encouraged and has been so excited to see Ms. Jeannot's efforts to really better understand what implementation looks like this fall. If only so that we can comment on it as one of our last acts in this term of council. So that would be the motion that I would put forward for consideration this evening. And of course, Ms. McKenna, I can read it again so you can capture all pieces of it. But that, I think, elevates, I think, the significance of this plan, and also the targets, which I think are certainly key and matter a lot, not only to this council, but to the community writ large, and speak a little bit more to the implementation piece, which is clearly so fundamental. Deputy Mayor.
I would support that new resolution, or we haven't got a resolution yet, but that we adopt the climate action plan as attached and commit to creating a pathway towards net zero by 2050, and further to direct staff to return to council in early October with the draft implementation plan. Does that capture it?
Certainly, I think we want to ensure that draft implementation plan highlights both internal efforts within the municipality and also community-generated commitments. So I think we're more or less saying the same thing, Deputy Mayor, just in slightly different words. Okay, so maybe Ms. McKenna, you can read that back. I know, of course, I think all of us care deeply about this plan, so if there's any other freelancing to do in terms of the motion, but I hear you saying, Deputy Mayor, that you're willing to move a variation of the motion that we've spoken about. So I'll look for a seconder so we can get it on the table. We have a seconder for the newly presented motion. Thank you, Councillor Strachan. Thank you. So with that, Ms. McKenna, do you just want to read the wording back to us, and then I can accept comments from council colleagues or any other amendments?
Certainly, I just have here that council adopts the climate action plan as attached, with an indication of a net zero by 2025, and staff to return to council by early October with a presentation for the adaptation plan, focusing on internal efforts and community generated commitment.
Yes, so implementation, not adaptation. So if you want to make that adjustment. And then I guess, colleagues, the question is, in my mind, obviously the plan, and I salute Ms. Jeannot, thank you so much for highlighting that we're going beyond what's recommended by FCM, so that's pretty exciting. But I would like your thoughts on whether or not we embed the 20% by 2031 and the 45% by 2036. Now, of course, these things can change, because with some momentum and early success, maybe we go beyond those targets, but obviously these are minimum targets. So council colleagues, I don't know if you'd like to see just the net zero by 2050 or if these interim targets are important to you. And if they are, I think we should embed them in the motion. Councillor Strachan?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to you, Madam Mayor, I would suggest embedding them, please.
Okay. So then, Ms. McKenna, in terms of the targets, I think we need to refer to the 20% by 2031 and the 45% by 2036, as well as the net zero by 2050. All right. Any other comments in regards to the motion? Yes, thank you, Ms. Janot.
Through your worship, so just for clarification, is council's intention to approve the implementation plan? My concern being then that we won't have the ability to start actioning some of these low-hanging fruit items. If we're bringing it back in October with the election soon after that, that means we may not be getting any actions until after the next term of council is sworn in.
No, I don't think, from my understanding, I don't think it's a matter of approval. It's a matter of sharing with this council what the implementation plan looks like. I think you might find it fairly quickly that there might be needs for additional resources, and that might be an opportunity to highlight if there are 3 key areas where implementation feels doable within a year to 2 years. You might want to highlight, certainly to this configuration of council, that there may be needs in the budget, and that might give you an opportunity to signal that not only with us, but with the community writ large, that if we're going to do this, we have to be serious about it. So I wouldn't want to inhibit implementation, but I think it's incumbent upon us as a council to understand what implementation looks like. And I think to also hear from community stakeholders like Sustainable North Grenville, among others, who I think are extremely excited to walk alongside us in this journey, and certainly I think can do their part. My experience having watched these plans roll out in other communities is that it's key to have a really robust community engagement. So that's also an opportunity, I think, to hear directly from Sustainable North Grenville, as well as yourself, Ms. Janot, and where you think the community can do some of that heavy lifting as well. Yes, so I have Councillor Sullivan and Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On behalf of the Health, Wellness, Fitness, Active Transportation Advisory Committee, I feel that I need to express what their strong feelings are with respect to the climate action plan, that there's a lot of specific things within this plan as it's written, which is, kudos to Ms. Janot and her team for generating such a robust plan, but we would definitely want to see a little more emphasis on, when you talk about how people travel, a little more emphasis on active transportation, particularly cycling, biking, in the plan, as well as preservation or replacement of trees. There was a motion that came from, or a recommendation that came from that committee back in October, which still has not reached the council table with respect to Settlers Trail. And so I would like to see a little more emphasis on having the advisory committees, when they put forward a recommendation, that it gets to council a little faster, particularly when it does relate to this document on climate change.
Okay, duly noted. And I can certainly follow up with the CEO, Ms. Janot, on some of those pieces. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, just concerning the motion as read, and to Ms. Janot's concerns about what we're asking her to do by October. I think we're looking for a draft plan, so to get something to us. And, we're not going to be adopting a draft plan. It's just it's a draft, like a pathway, basically creating a pathway to how to achieve those goals as articulated in the motion.
Certainly, I think it's at the discretion of Ms. Janot to certainly identify low-hanging fruit and move that along. So I think we're not looking at approving an implementation plan so much as learning about that implementation plan and where you might require resources or partnership or who knows what, support for funding applications to ensure that the resources are there. So to be clear, I don't think we want to delay Ms. Janot's efforts, but we want to learn more about what that pathway is. But if I've misunderstood the council table, then feel free to clarify. Ms. Councillor Strachan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think what we don't want to get in the way of any of the
Yes.
work that's discovered, continue
That's
with the work,
correct.
take action as required.
Yeah.
We'd love to receive an update in October.
Yes.
I think that simply is what we're looking for.
Well, an update on the draft
Yep,
implementation
on that,
plan.
yes.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
rest of it.
I think we're fairly close to a consensus in terms of how we understand what we're intending or seeking to do here. But I'll recognize Councillor Sullivan one more time.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for indulging me. I'm just wondering, would it be more appropriate for us to receive this climate action plan and then to receive and adopt the implementation plan?
I think we may require approval in order to activate some of those early funding opportunities. So I think receipt may not be enough. So I would suggest, I mean, these are living documents. Certainly, Ms. Janot may come to us in October. We may ourselves, through engagement with Sustainable North Grenville and myriad of other groups, decide that there are pieces of the plan that need to be strengthened. Certainly as a living document, as a policy document of council, I think we can reflect on any gaps in October and potentially look to strengthen in areas where maybe we hadn't fully anticipated moving in a certain direction. So I would say that receipt may compromise our efforts to capitalize on some of that funding. Ms. Janot, have I gotten that right?
Through your worship, correct. And the PCP framework does require adoption and not just receival for information.
Okay, great. So I believe, Ms. McKenna, do you want to read it one more time and then I'm going to call the vote? It's regrettable you have to use a mic. I know, I understand.
So that council consider the motion to improve targets to 20% by 2031, then 45% by 2036, and net zero by 2050. Approving today's climate action plan as presented, but asking staff to return to council by early October with a draft implementation plan focusing on internal efforts and community-generated commitments.
Colleagues, does that capture the spirit of our discussion? Yes? Okay. And I would, maybe the word isn't draft implementation plan, because by then I think it will be an implementation plan. It's just the sharing of that implementation plan, an opportunity for council to respond and highlight some additional areas of activity or reflections in terms of the community. Okay. So if there are no other comments, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Okay. That carries. All right, so just forgive me. I'm just going to pull up my agenda again, and then we'll carry on. So we are going to move on to correspondence. As you can see here, there's a lengthy list of correspondence. Councillor Strachan, would you like to highlight something?
I would like to highlight the K26, the Telling Your Story, not so much for discussion here, but I would suggest that perhaps our council representatives on the Arts, Culture and Heritage Advisory Committee take this back and present it to them to see if there's some value in exploring that initiative for a modest amount of funding that would go towards creating a video. So I think there's some potential value in there, and maybe the ACHAC would be interested in looking at it. And the only other item I would, and it's not necessary for this one, but for the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority, and it applies to South Nation as well, as you see the minutes come up from the meetings, if you're interested in understanding what the position is of the conservation authorities with the upcoming amalgamation and any of the work that's transpiring as a result, that would be the place to look for some of the most up-to-date information on the discussions that are taking place. We often receive information from the general managers on where things are going, and it will have an impact locally on representation at the new amalgamated conservation authorities coming down the line in the next year.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor Strachan. Would you like that item discussed at a forthcoming meeting?
No, do you, Madam Mayor? No, I don't think it needs to be discussed. If there is a set of minutes that come up, both Councillor Wilson and I do discuss these as our respective roles on those conservation authorities. And if there's something noteworthy, then I think we can draw it to your attention. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other comments and correspondence before I keep going? Seeing none, motions and notices of motions. Do we have any notices of motion? Yeah. Yes, there was a notice of motion that we didn't put on tonight's agenda because we expected to go a little bit later than we have, owing to the asset management plan, which was subsequently moved. So we'll move on. There are no petitions and written communications from the public, Ms. McKenna. Okay. We have no miscellaneous or unfinished business. We've tired out most in the audience. We're down to 3. Any comments from members of our community who are here? Yes, go ahead. Yep, absolutely. Right. Yes, just you push that button, it should work. And just state your name for the public.
Okay,
record.
Chris Turnbull.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Madam Mayor, Council. Sorry, last question for the evening, I guess. Regarding the delegations earlier around Ferguson Forest, I have a question probably for Amy, with thanks for earlier mapping, because I've been trying to figure out that line for quite some time. So thank you. We talked about the intensification layer, which was great. All the delegations were quite interesting. I have a question about the space behind the intensification layer that goes to Veterans Way, because the urban service boundary goes to Veterans Way. We mostly talked about Anniversary Way. And on the map, and it may be a coloration issue, it looks like it could be agriculture. Is it zoned and designated agriculture? Or is it designated agriculture and potentially, again, I might not have that term right, but could it be open space parkland? So it's not the 13 acres, it's the 46 remaining acres or whatever. The first delegate said 60 acres in total. So I just want to know about the land use there.
Ms. Burton?
Through your worship, to Ms. Turnbull, are you specifically, which map are you specifically referring to?
Sorry, yeah, that's a good point. I'm looking at Schedule B land use for the North Grenville OP draft.
Thank you. I'm just going to pull it up.
Yeah, thanks. And I guess the other question is the Argus map for North Grenville, is that updated to this particular official plan, Schedule B land use?
Through your worship, to Ms. Turnbull, the ArcGIS map?
Yeah.
Yes, so I'll answer that question first while I
thank you.
pull up
Yeah.
the mapping. The ArcGIS mapping is what we use as our base for how we display information. It's maintained by the counties, but certainly we have a lot of it, like we have our maps digitized by consultants to upload. I'm just going to, it's no longer on the front page. My recollection is that those lands don't have an open space designation. It should be agriculture. But give me a few minutes to find it.
I like maps, sorry.
Is it best that you return with the answer, or is it possible to get it this evening? Okay, thank you. I know you're working on the fly, so I just want to make sure that you have enough time, because if it's not possible to respond, then we could follow up with Ms. Turnbull later. Go ahead. Ms.
I
Martin.
do have an answer. Thank you, Your Worship, for
Okay.
giving me a few seconds. So the coloration, I do appreciate that they're both a green color, but the up to Veterans Way, that is an agriculture designation, not open space. The open space is actually right across the road, which is the cemetery. It has more of that neon color.
Yeah.
But the lands that would go from 43 back to Veterans Way, those are to remain designated agriculture under the proposed mapping.
Okay, so in the county agricultural area review, those remain agriculture. They're not rural lands. Is that correct?
Through Your
Ms.
Worship,
Martin.
I would need to verify with the county's plan, which I don't have in front of me this evening. Perhaps I can follow up afterwards as to what those recommended changes are.
Yeah.
The plan is currently under appeal, so it's until such a time that is resolved. I can't,
It is what it is.
It
right?
is, until we get
Okay.
direction on that. What I will say from a process standpoint is at such a time that the counties, their schedule is updated, whatever the decisions out of that process come forward with, we are required to update our land use designations to match theirs.
Okay, and then last question to one of the delegates is, can you move the boundary back? Could you, because the county will be revising the boundaries potentially, or could do the mapping, and they are the tier 1, if it was requested of the municipality, couldn't you move a boundary back? Can you move it back like 43, say, in this example, so that when county does their updated mapping, they could show that on their own mapping as a tier 1, that municipality would then be guided by?
I defer to Ms. Martin.
Yeah?
I defer to Ms. Martin because
Okay.
I'm not clear on what the answer would be.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Just always looking for the chair just to acknowledge me
Yes,
before I
of
speak.
course.
So through Your Worship to Ms. Turnbull. So certainly I should say like at any point in time, but the municipality does have the ability to work with the counties in regards to our boundaries. What I will identify is that the counties has been going through their growth management study, where part of the discussion has been around boundary changes that are required to support growth. I think it's no surprise that there's recommendations that North Grenville's boundaries grow, but it doesn't also mean that they can't remove areas as well or make those adjustments. So that's as part of the county's official plan update and their growth study that they undertook. We were looking to work with them to understand what does boundary adjustments, boundary expansions, what does that look like for North Grenville in light of their studies that they're doing and as part of their official plan update. As you've correctly identified, they're tier 1, we're tier 2, so we do have to follow them. So our boundaries cannot change until their plan changes for our boundaries.
Okay, and the growth management is ongoing now, and I guess it eventually comes to you, and then you adopt or discuss or whatever. That's how it works. I mean, it's a public thing that's ongoing right now, right? So it ends, does it end this year? Growth management strategy? Does it end this spring?
Growth management as governed by the counties
Yes.
is a staff-led process that will return to the county's table. I don't know if it will conclude by the end of this term of council. I think that's the expectation, but it would be best to reach out to Sherry Mills because she would have the most insight into the timing of the growth management study and the recommendations.
Okay.
It's a new exercise, I believe. I think we can say it's a new exercise for the United Counties, so it is taking some time, and it hasn't come back to the county council table for a number of months.
Yeah, okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
you, guys.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Thank you. You as well.
Yeah.
So with that, any other comments? No? All right. So we'll go to confirmation bylaw. That's it. The confirmation bylaw is attached to this agenda. Be read a first, second, third time, and finally pass an open council. Mover and a seconder, Councillor Wilson, Strachan, thank you. Calling the question, all in favor. And then finally adjournment, the recommendations that we adjourn at 9:16 p.m. And I will look to Deputy Mayor and Councillor Sullivan to move in second, and I'm calling the question, all in favor. Excellent, thank you, and our meeting is adjourned.